Hello everybody, I am Techno Void, your host, and the potato salad that you brought to the potluck that nobody really wanted to touch, and with me is Hamsterwings, your favorite Pokemon analyst, and we're here for the Season 6 wrap-up. How are you doing, Hamsterwings?
I like potato salad.
Then why didn't you eat any? You know, the person who brought it is really offended, really sad that nobody touched it.
I wasn't invited.
Oh, well, that sucks. Okay, well, that makes sense. Either way, this week we don't have any matches for you. Of course, we are awaiting playoffs to start next week. However, we do have the awards and some, general things to say about all the teams. So to start off here, let's go through these awards. We've got the carry, brings home the gold. This is basically the Pokemon that, came to most of the matches, put in the most work, basically got the player the wins. And I don't think it's any surprise to see Annihilate at the top here.
Yeah, I mean, it did get a lot of wins.
Yeah, I mean, top three, Annihilate, Landorus, and Amorous is basically exactly what one would expect from this.
Yep.
So not at all surprising to see this. But yeah, that's Annihilate is kind of crazy. I know there are people arguing that it's Terra. It should maybe be S tier. We'll see how playoffs go, but right now, our team that balances and tiers things genuinely still believes that Annihilate is okay, and there was a set of a myriad of reasons Annihilate did so well this season that don't just have to do with Annihilate itself. Either way, let's move into the Executioner.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but playoffs will be important data.
Yeah. Executioner, pretty much the exact same thing. Annihilate, Landorus, and Amorous. Just huge. I mean, Deoxys is in 4th place with 4 fewer votes. I mean, yeah, truly crazy. Just insane how well these things did. So these two, not surprising at all. Executioner, basically the award that the super scary Pokemon gets all the kills. A lot of the time, this is going to look the same as the carry, but it doesn't always have to. Sometimes a support mon is the carry. Sometimes a wall is the carry. A lot of the time, yeah, it's going to be the thing that gets kills.
Mm-hmm.
But then moving on into the Bastion, Pokemon that was the tank, stayed on the field for a very long time. This one actually ended up being quite close. It was a tie between Fourgeist and, again, Annihilate. I broke the tie because I don't vote in these. And I gave it to Fourgeist in part because I simply did not want to give it to Annihilate, but I will be honest. That being said, I do actually think that Fourgeist getting as many votes as it did here does make sense. It doesn't strike me as that bulky of a Pokemon, like, naturally, but
it's really not.
Yeah, but somehow in Burnt matches, it really managed to stay on the field. Like, I can think of 2 or 3 separate matches where it sort of just dominated field presence for a very long time. Like in Kotard's match, in Math Geek's match, I think there's at least, like, one other one where, like, despite the fact that it doesn't have that much inherent bulk, it truly just commanded the battlefield for a while. And so I think it is very deserving of this. Annihilate, of course, does sit there, but I thought it would be fun to give this to Fourgeist.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, Aegislash with the 4 votes, obviously coming off of the one match we saw with the Toxic Protect. Mega Venusaur always makes sense for Bastion. Finny, Tangrowth, Tinglu, all very, very good options here. But let's move on into the Comrade. Comrade being the Pokemon that, very supportive, works, in a lot of different team compositions. No matter what you bring, it always works either as a good defensive switch-in, a good pivot, just good supportive mon, all sorts of stuff. And again, unsurprising to see Mousehold here at 8 votes, because this is really the Pokemon that made Annihilate the carry in the Executioner.
Yeah. I mean, I would even argue that Mousehold, like, was the carry.
It was the carry in a lot of ways. I think that's very true. It's always fun to see, or not fun, it's funny to see, like, Mousehold at 0-6, when truly, between the Friend Guard and the Follow Me and the Beat Up and all, all of this sort of very important support for the Annihilate, it really was the thing that set that up to make that all happen. Seeing Fourgeist, again, I think just kind of like with the Bastion, it really just sort of commanded the battlefield. Whimsicott, very, very obvious Comrade pick most seasons. Yeah. Persian
Alola sneaking in there did a very good job.
Yeah, I think Persian, and we'll talk more about Persian in a bit, but it, Ned brought it to every single match, and I cannot think of a single time that it was like truly a dead slot. I think there were maybe potentially times where another pick would have been better, but I can't think of a single match where it was like, man, really should not have brought Persian at this one.
Mhm.
So, honestly, impressive. I know sort of what Persian does, but this season has sort of given me a bigger appreciation for it, so good on Ned for doing that. You always love to see a C tier do that. We've had some like Electros and Delmise, and there's like some other C tiers like that like someone used it and it's like, oh shit, this is actually not bad.
Yeah, it actually went off.
Next up, we got the Cleric. This is more supporty in the terms of like buffing your side. So this is, healing, tailwinds, screens, all that kind of stuff. Unsurprising to see Finny win this. Comfy has won this the past 2 seasons. The top, what is this? The top 5 are all fairy types. Big Fairy controls the Cleric.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Someone's got to start picking. I genuinely don't know what
a non-fairy Pokemon that has all that really nice support.
Like literally everything that got votes is a fairy.
Well, Vanillux is right there.
Oh, I skipped over Vanillux for some reason.
Vanillux ain't a fairy. I will say, I'm extremely surprised Tornadus did not get any votes.
Yeah, me too.
I think Tornadus was maybe not a shoo-in for this, but I thought Tornadus was one of the best clerics this season. It was relatively one note, but that was completely okay because it leads out, it has Prankster Tailwind, it sets up the rest of the team with that instant speed control, but you also have to be scared of it because these genies do have just fucking insane moves now. So just knowing that that's going to be on the field and still needing to deal with it before it can set up that tailwind is it's big, it's important. So I'm really surprised to see it didn't get any votes here. I would have voted
like
for
sometimes Whimsicott does a similar thing, but then it's kind of like stuck on the field sometimes.
Right, yeah, like what's Whimsicott gonna do? Tornadus on the other hand? Nah, Tornadus will just fuck you up.
Yeah, just Bleak Wind Storm spam.
Oh my god. Alrighty, let's get straight into the Disruptor. So for Farigiraf winning the Disruptor, I think for very similar reason that it won the Bastion and did well on the Comrade. Disruptor being the Pokemon that makes the other team question their sanity, right? So Tinkaton, I think, did a very good job this season of that. Screamtail did okay. Sneasler was pretty funny with the, some of its moves there. But I think at the end of the day, Farigiraf was the clear winner here. Like, I cannot think of another Pokemon that truly did as much nonsense as it, except maybe like Klefki.
Yeah,
I think Klefki could have.
I think those two.
Yeah, I think Farigiraf and Klefki would have been the two. But seeing Farigiraf at 8 votes here, the community has decided this giraffe boy, he's gonna ruin your day. Let's move on into the wild card that I'm on the wrong screen for. So wild card being the Pokemon that you see it on team preview, you're not sure what it's gonna do. It could really do anything. Necrozma, Terra, and Tinkaton at a tie here. Tinkaton ends up winning on the tiebreak. Because Necrozma, definitely, we've talked it up all season. I think especially the first couple weeks, we talked up just how versatile it is with a Terra typing. And that's just sort of comes prepackaged in with it. I wanted to give props to Meteor Bower for this use of Tinkaton, because Tinkaton has a lot less, like, at a base level,
it just has less going for it.
It has less going for it. It has less wild card ability, and yet Meteor Bower had this thing doing something completely fucking different almost every match, and I was incredibly impressed. Klefki being up here, I think makes a lot of sense. Klefki and Smeargle both, I think, did pretty good. Smeargle, with the transform the one time, Klefki with like Meteor Beam shenanigans and all sorts of stuff. Trick Lagging Tail at one point, although I don't think it came off, so I'm not sure anybody knew about that besides us. Oops. Either way, so that is going to be a wild card going off to Tinkaton. Next up, we got the Secret Weapon. Starmie winning this one out by just 1 vote. I think both Starmie and Chandelure would have been really, really great picks here. at the end of the day, Secret Weapon is essentially, the Pokemon did not come to every match, but anytime it did come, it was a win con, right? And I think this is true for both Starmie and Chandelure. The one time for Chandelure, I don't think it was true, was, what was it, week 7 against me? Week 6? Whenever Chandelure came against CP Sentinels, where it ended up, it was a very funny set, but it ended up not really mattering in the long run, whereas I think Starmie, every single game it came was pivotal to winning the game.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we have Magnezone and Brute Bonnet, I think, both good. Chestnut didn't actually do too much, although it did have that one roar. That roar strat, like week 1, very, very funny. So that's good. Alrighty, for Showstopper, if I had to remember, Cradily winning this one. This is probably the closest one. Cradily winning, I think, makes a lot of sense. Really popped off against Math Geek with the Storm Drain, the Ancient Powers. Using Dracovish as a support mon, love to see it. And then Farigiraf and Tinkaton both coming in second here, I think makes a lot of sense. You have the Encore match from Tinkaton. You have the, what is it called? Imprison Trick Room match from Farigiraf. Blacephalon with the, what was it? The Helping Hand Mind Blown. Vanillux just fucking sweeping a match, which is admittedly less impressive after a season of Annihilate, but, go off. Cradily winning this one, I think makes a lot of sense. Very, very fun match that one was. Opportunist, Roaring Moon wins this one. This is one that I was not actually sure. I did not have, going into this, a good idea of who I thought would win. What do you think about Roaring Moon being the winner of Opportunist, being the Pokemon that made best use of its Terra type?
I think it's definitely up there. I don't know who I would pick between, like, Moon. I think I didn't vote on this one because there were, like, too many options that I thought were good. Between, like, Roaring Moon, Great Tusk, Buzzwole.
Great Tusk and Buzzwole were going to be the two that I mentioned. I think Buzzwole really, on a team that really, I think, got one win all season, ended up going, like, third in terms of, like, kills. Like, really goes to show just how well that was used. And I think Great Tusk, even though Great Tusk itself did not get that many kills, just its presence on Team Preview, its presence in the back, its ability to be any type, was very, very strong here. And I think Diggory made very good use out of the typings. Diggory's prep is freaking unparalleled, and he was always choosing extremely good types for this thing.
Yeah, his prep is insane.
Insane. But as it stands, Roaring Moon won. Grats Roaring Moon. I definitely don't think it's a misvote, right? Like, I think Roaring Moon did very well. I just think this was a toss-up between several. Next up, we got the Miracle. Persian Alola winning this one. I think we said what needs to be said about Persian Alola. It's cool. It's a damn ugly mon, I'll be honest, but it put in work. Just like we said, not a single match that it came where it didn't feel like it actually contributed, which is impressive for a C tier. So yeah, there's that. Tinkaton, Mega Absol, I think both, made a lot of sense here. Mega Absol, honestly, probably more, in my opinion, than Tinkaton. I think Tinkaton did some funny stuff. I don't know that it was... I don't know if it was, like, upper C-tier material, right? I think it was just very C-tier-ish.
Sure.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah, alrighty. And then finally we got the flop, so Iron Bundle winning this one out by a landslide. With Iron Bundle, I think Iron Bundle is a very good Pokemon. It is, and this has been noted, that it is pretty one note, but I think it's a very, very good note, right? Like, you have perfect coverage, you have incredible speed tier, incredible damage potential. The issue with Bundle this season, I think, is not that it is not a good A tier. I think the issue with Bundle is that it was drafted onto a team that it had to do too much heavy lifting on its own, and this was just heavy lifting that it was just not capable of doing without support. I think
a lot of it really had to do with the type overlap.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because, like, when this is your Terra type, and the majority of your team is weak to one or two types, you're relying on Bundle to carry a lot of the defensive backbone of the team, just because it has the ability to be any other type. And it just struggles with that because of its physical bulk being really bad. The Terra Blast is nice, but really it just I think it struggled on that front, and Iron Hands kind of ran away with Math Geek's sort of actual damage potential, whereas Iron Bundle kind of just died a lot. And I don't think that's an issue with Iron Bundle. I think that's just an issue with the team it was drafted with didn't allow it to shine.
Yeah, I mean, what you really want it to do is, like, either just be a crazy damage support with, like, Specs Icy Wind, or just be that freeze dry spammer.
Right, for sure. Yep, alrighty, but that is going to be all the awards. So let's talk a little bit about these teams. So we're just going to do a quick run through everybody's team, how they performed. Starting with Burnt with the Mothership. I think Burnt performed very well. I think Burnt was sort of the, I don't want to say the dark horse, that's not really the right way to say it, but sort of the diamond in the rough, right? The new player who, like, very clearly had a lot of, like, potential to move upwards, did a lot of prep, was very clear to see. So I thought Burnt getting third place honestly makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is just one of those cases of just proof in the pudding of, you know, when you put in the time and the effort, you see really good results. And I think Burnt was coming in a place where maybe not the highest, like, knowledge, like someone like, I think, Ned or Juice, who just came in with more doubles experience, but Burnt sort of making that up with just really focusing and really paying attention. It was really good to see. The first time Mega Kanga was actually been drafted in a regular season. How'd you feel about it?
Generally, I think it might have underperformed a little.
That's, yeah.
But I don't think the team was kind of designed for it to succeed. It's a great Pokemon, and it does a ton of stuff on its own, which is clear. It's still got 5 kills. That's a lot. But I don't think the team was built around supporting it.
That's very fair. Alrighty, let's move straight into Ape University. The monkey in the room, Terra Annihilate. Yep. It's an insane
21
KD.
kills, unprecedented, unheard of.
Yeah, truly. Juice, I think, just kind of the perfect storm of a player this season. All of our new players, you know, get filtered into Quick Ball. We see how they do their first season before, you know, sort of doing the cutoff the following season. I think Juice is very clearly a timer tier player who managed to get an incredibly strong draft setup early, both because, you know, very early in pick. I think nice sort of pick positioning. They're able to grab that Annihilate early on, and second of all, just sort of having this knowledge of how doubles works, how these draft goes, being able to pick up these Pokemon that very well support Annihilate. I don't think Annihilate would have done this well, not even with the Mousehold. Like, with the Heatran and the Salamence and the Rotom and the Klefki, I think they all contributed to Ape's success in a big way.
Yeah.
And I think there was just a huge learning curve from other players figuring out how to deal with this thing. So again, we will really see what happens in playoffs, but I truly believe that the Ape is probably okay where it is, and this was truly just a player who knew what they were doing, taking advantage of the fact that they were able to get such a stacked draft.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying that Juice got carried at all. That is me saying Juice carried himself.
Yeah, I don't think Annihilate did carry him.
Yeah.
I think the just vast VGC experience is what did
I think his skill carried him. Exactly. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's move on into Post. Post, such a sad situation this season. First all season, in the very last week, drops into 4th. Truly crying about it. But tell me, how did you feel about this team overall?
I'm gonna feel vindicated because I thought before the season Ursaluna was trash, and I feel like I'm right. And Post told me he agreed.
Wow. All right. Well, there you heard it here first, Ursaluna. I don't know. I guess we'll see if what happens to it in the future. I don't know how Post felt about this team. I don't know how much he enjoyed using it. Even though he was in first for like the majority of the season, I feel some of his past teams he's maybe vibed with more. I don't know. To me,
Yeah,
it
I
didn't
felt that.
strike me as him having a super high synergy with this team. Maybe I'm completely off base about that, but that's just how I felt. That being said, did win like every week up until the last two.
Yeah.
And the two people he lost to are first and second in timer right now. So
Yep.
so can't really blame the guy. Alrighty, let's move on into Furret. How did you feel about this team? I don't have too much to say here. Araquanid obviously kind of popping off.
Yeah, Arachnid got a lot of kills.
I actually think this Araquanid is a very good point to make when we look at the Annihilate. Like, we look at the Annihilate that went 21-1. We look at the Araquanid that went 11-4. You see 11-4 KD on, like, a Pokemon, you immediately think, like, man, that probably needs to go up a tier. That's kind of insane. I think we saw from the way Araquanid, like, was played and played around, it's not a broken Pokemon for the tier. It truly just managed to take advantage of a lot of situations that it, in some scenarios, had no right taking over.
Yeah.
Because this thing ended up jumping from, like, 6 kills to 11 kills in the course of 1 week and jumping to, like, 4th on the leaderboard, and I don't think that means it needs to go up a tier. That's just what 1 or 2 crazy matches does for a thing. But but yeah. Darkrai Victini, sort of, I think maybe more use could have been made out of that combo. I don't actually think we saw any Dark Voids, but I'm just kind of an insane person. I think Darkrai got used perfectly fine. Raikou really kind of poorly used this season. I'll be completely brutally honest. The Raikou was not good.
Yeah, 0 and 5 is kind of rough for a Pokemon that fast.
Yeah. And I just think the moves that were on it and the sort of the builds it had were just not indicative of what it is good at. I just think it was misused. But let's move on into King. What do you think here? What are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously you see the 0 and 7 and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But I think it was a learning experience, this team.
Yeah. Now,
Like,
here's the
not in
thing.
an
King
insulting
Gambit.
way.
Yeah, King
Yeah.
Gambit going into this season was an extremely hype mon. Like, this was something that so many eyes were on. And
Well, I feel like they were all on it as a Terra.
as a Terra captain. Very fair point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that Thundurus did that much as a Terra captain this season. Obviously, I think the Volt Absorb ability to turn into something, basically doesn't have any resistances is very nice, or any weaknesses. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like it did that much especially for a genie.
Yeah. It found itself in a lot of rough situations.
Mm-hmm. The Porygon 2 sort of not getting really a chance to flex at all when Porygon 2 is pretty exclusively in seasons been the Annihilate problem. In fact, I think Porygon 2 is kind of pissed right now that Annihilate is taking its whole shtick. That being said,
I welcome the change.
Rayquaza.
I'm sick of Porygon 2.
I don't remember. Whiskey drafted Rayquaza last season. I don't remember how well it performed. Is this Rayquaza performance about? I mean, honestly, given the team
I think
went
it
0,
performed better.
yeah. But I was just gonna say, given the team went 0 and 7, Rayquaza's score is actually pretty indicative of generally like what I'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this team never got like blown away.
Yeah. I think most of these matches were pretty close. But yeah, just kind of I think the Ray the first few weeks had a lot of trouble because it was getting switched in on, it was, losing its sash or just, being outplayed. Towards the second half of the season, I think Rayquaza did a lot better. It just started taking out priority targets and then dying, which honestly, not that bad for an S tier. Deoxys kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think Melodic, very good use of Melodic this season. Moving on into Who Let Her Cook.
Enamorous and Tornadus went psycho mode.
Jesus Christ, these two. Tauros, Paldea, Aqua also kind of a really, really nice C tier here. Aegislash, we had that, game with Aegislash. I think all these Pokemon, with the exception of like the bottom 2 or 3, all put in very substantial work. Maybe Beedrill also. I think Beedrill there was one match where it was important. And same with Swampert,
Raichu took over the week 6 match.
This is true.
7 match.
This is true. Yeah, Raichu just kind of goated with the sauce and the, what is it, Eerie Impulse. Yeah. Overall, Hyde ended up going from sort of sitting in that, I think, like 4th-ish range, like just out of there, popping up with a clean 6-0 into playoffs right at the very end. So good on her. Yeah, Enamorous Tornadus is kind of insane, truly.
Yep.
Next up, we got Math Geek. Sort of talked about this a little bit with the flop. I think the main struggle here was the team composition just being kind of one note, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Math Geek is in this strange position where he is looking to win. Like, he is looking to perform well. But sort of the method he uses to do this is always, oh, well, I need to do something the enemy will never expect. And a lot of the times, the reason the enemy isn't expecting that strategy is because it's not a very good strategy. And I think Math has yet to sort of find this happy middle ground of something that will indeed catch your opponent off guard, but still actually be viable instead of, like, just not good. And I think sort of trying to find this this middle ground of not trolling, but still being unexpected is something Math is still looking for. And I think this season, maybe a little bit closer. Again, we see with the Tauros Paldea combat and the Sigilif just not coming at all. There's a little bit more work that needs to be done on draft here and figuring out how to get more use out of all your picks.
Yeah, I also think it's super important that your Terra type, like we said this already, be either like something that the rest of your team allows it to take over the game, or it needs to be something kind of tanky that can set up. Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up we got Nedgem. So Nedgem, similar situation I think to Juice here, where coming in with, a fair bit of doubles experience already, coming in with our only weather team of the season.
Yeah.
And doing quite well for themselves. Just, Zapdos, kind of popping off hella on a sand team of all things.
This team really didn't rely on sand.
No, it didn't. That being said,
I mean, you look at the members and you're like, this is a sand team.
And I mean, T-Tar had Sandstream every week, and it came to every single match, but it was like very frequently it made great use out of that Terra type. I think T-Tar was up there as one of those great users. And the Cradley had a great match. Diancie, I actually feel did maybe underperform. I know it doesn't look like that, but I feel like it wasn't pivotal to any match that I can think of off the top of my head.
I think it generally did a lot, but
Sure, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, there's no match I can think of that I was like, that match was won because Diancie was on the field, right? Whereas I can definitely say that about like T-Tar or Zapdos, or even frickin' Persian. But yeah, no, I think Ned performed quite well. Always cool to see new faces and see sort of where their skill levels are at. But let us move on into Det. This is a big one. This is Egg's first season up in Timer. Because we had a huge influx of new players this season, the way Timer Quick works is it is not like, we're choosing you for Timer, we're choosing you for Timer. It is literally a cutoff, right? Like, we literally just say, okay, who is required to be in Quick because of the way we run Quick, who is left over? That's Timer. And
yeah, the only reason it exists is because it's our attempt to make every battle close and fun.
Right, yeah. And so
And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you get a new player that shows up and kills everybody.
and is very good, right? Yeah, but we the reason we do this is we want to avoid a situation in which a new player comes in, difficult to get a read without any experience on how a player does, and just immediately throw them into the deep end, right? Throw them into the pit of the players we know are, have a lot of experience, and just have them have a shitty time, right?
Right.
Like, we would rather something like this happen in quick ball than the opposite happen in timer ball. Because, Peanut went 0-7, Meteor Bauer went 1-6, but they're veterans. They know fairly well why their teams didn't succeed. They're good sports about it. We don't know everybody, right? And we just want to make sure that everybody's having some level of a good time. Better one person do really well and everyone in quick be like, well, this is one week I'm not going to win, versus the one new person in timer being like, well, I'm not going to win anything.
Right, because then you just don't want to play.
You just don't want to play, right? Exactly, and that's no fun. But that being said, Egg generally performs quite well in quick. I think always makes it to playoffs, and so when we had a new influx of players, he was sort of our first choice of, hey, let's move Egg up. I think Egg performed so well. I
think he did great.
This just says to me we made the right fucking choice on who to move up, because Egg went 3 and 4, I think got 6th place overall, but timer is rough. Timer is hard to do well in. Everyone is vying for those spots. I mean, you have two-time champ Meteor Bauer sitting in 7th place. You have Post, who won the entire fucking season basically in 4th. 6th is not bad at all by any means, and I think Egg had a couple of really, really good matches here. Truly, if he didn't have that 6-0 at the end, it might have been a lot higher, actually.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, I think great use of the Necrozma. Barbarical, love to see a C tier perform super well. Mega Audino proving that yes, it is a B tier, not a C tier. Use of the Shaman, I think not ideal. But it is what it is on that front.
Yeah, Shaman kind of ended up not fitting the team most of the time.
Yeah, I think the team was sort of a slightly slower tempo that Shaman really excels at. And then Indeedee, despite the where it is on the team right now, I think Indeedee did perform quite well. It did what it needed to do a lot of the time. Let's move on into gang. So here we have the infamous Dozo Giri, which didn't actually really show up except for once at the very end.
And yet Dozo is the top of the board.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, yeah, top of the board being 6 kills, but yes.
Yeah.
I honestly, Dozo being top here, personally, I would say I think the most important Pokemon on this team, kind of ironically, was Screamtail.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
I think the matches that OJ won, I think, again, with the Dozo, this is very similar to the Araquanid thing, where there were 2 matches that Dozo had a chance to pop off. I think in one of them, Furret just did not realize they could not target the Tatsugiri, so they kept targeting the Tatsugiri. And I think there was one other match where Dozo just got to get a fair number of kills off of that. But all those other matches that OJ won, good use of Screamtail. Just using Screamtail to its high points, and I think that's really important. Recognizing what a Pokemon is good at and abusing that, and Screamtail did a great job. Jirachi kind of always in this position of no one really uses it particularly well, despite the fact that it is maybe one of potentially. When we started this draft back at season 1, I was like, Jirachi is probably one of the best Pokemon to draft. I'm becoming less and less sure of that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe I think it is truly that just we haven't had anyone that is laser focused on competitive side of things ever use it, because they don't want to, right? They want to use something more interesting. I think the issue with Jirachi is just not that interesting. It just does a lot of things really well, which makes it so it makes it a pickup for a lot of players that just oh yeah, no, Jirachi is a great all-rounder. Yeah, Hydreigon, honestly, despite being 3rd, kind of was underwhelmed. I think Hydreigon as a Terra Captain is incredibly strong. I don't know that OJ made the best use out of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't say underwhelmed. I would say I was pretty whelmed by this. I think Hydreigon had a lot of potential. But really, I think Screamtail was the absolute GOAT.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's talk Bust. So Bust, Meteor Bower, going 1-6 this season. Truly having, what is it, like a single, two, like just barely any Pokemon with attack stats.
Yeah.
But Buzzwole Terra speaking for itself with its, its high KD, its high rank. Latios, Mega Latios, that could have been a flop, just saying.
It could have.
It could have been a flop. Number 158 is this Mega Pokemon in the 8 tier of Legendary. Base 700 BST. Certainly was not used to its fullest potential. You got any other thoughts on this team? I feel like we've talked a lot about Ghost Busting over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah. Alrighty. Cool. Well, let's get into Whiskey. How do you feel about this? You are our only other Deoxys attack user, and this time we had the Terra. Tell me about this team. What did you think of it?
I honestly would have liked to see some like eject back Deoxys, because when I used Deoxys, that just didn't exist.
Oh, that didn't exist, and then now because eject pack is the one that when you lower your own stats, you get sent out, right? Or when your stats gets lowered, and then Psycho Boost is very nice with that. Yeah. Two Whiskeys. Credit is the wrong word. Two Whiskeys chagrin to Whiskey. The point is, lots of people figured out to bring rocks into Whiskey.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Which is interesting.
People exclusively run rocks 1 week.
1 week. Yeah, it's always funny to see these sort of microcosms of sort of meta develop against certain teams. Because you don't always see it, but when you do it is always very interesting, because then that player, Whiskey in this case, runs into the situation of, I need to dedicate some prep to this, and then you sort of have this game of chicken of like, is this worth running in the first place? Because it wouldn't be in a lot of cases, but if that Mega Blastoise isn't able to get Rapid Spin off this game, this does get me Dio in one hit instead of two, which is super important. Otherwise, I mean, I thought it was a fairly balanced sort of normal team. I think Incin, Mega Blastoise, Cobalion, Deoxys, and Comfey all did exactly what they needed to. Decent use of C tiers.
I'm glad Cobalion did a lot, because I feel like I recommend it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a good Pokemon. I just think, I don't know. I think this is the first time it has been drafted, I believe.
Yeah.
So, no.
Maybe.
It's good. I'm pretty sure, because I wrote the GPS like last week. But anyways, I think, Whiskey, very sort of solid team, ended up getting 5th in Quick this season. Top 3 was basically off limits to most folks. But say la vie, let us move on into Help. So Help, being our newest, most inexperienced player, still ended up getting a win.
Yeah, very new to Pokemon, and his win was very hype.
Yeah, no, it was super, super awesome to see that win. Obviously, there were a lot of mistakes, right? Like, a lot of things to learn
as you would
from.
expect from anyone new to a game.
For sure. Like, I didn't mean that wasn't the case at all, but...
No, I know.
Yeah. Just sort of, a lot of errors, but, Kotard sort of recognizing that, and acknowledging, this advice and sort of working, and I think throughout the season, this is exactly what I love to see, right? Like, when you have a new player who week 1 clearly just does not have any concept of the, competitive format, and week by week still losing, but like maybe losing less, learning what specific moves do, understanding how Imprison works, understanding when to use Trick Room, when to switch out in Trick Room, and just, learning, this small number of things each week, and getting to the point where you actually get a win, like in the season, like that is great. That feels so good to see that improvement through a season, because sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes we have a new player who ends up losing all the matches, but like they've still improved, but there's no nothing they can point to say, like, here is how I improved. And I think Kotard got this season, and that just makes me so excited, and that makes me so happy that it did happen.
I do think the one, like, biggest thing I wanted to see more of was just Melmetal.
Melmetal is really, really strong in TR. I will say Kotard, I think, in all this time, got a lot of understanding. Not perfect understanding by any means, but, like, you know, learned a lot about playing Trick Room. I don't know that will fully transfer over to other styles of play, but I think every little piece of information helps, right? Because you've used Trick Room, now you know how to fight Trick Room. If people have used Trick Room against you, or have countered your Trick Room and have done well, so this is one more piece of information you have moving forward. And I just think that's valuable and useful. Viable was the wrong word. Anyways, Card Wizards. Talk to me about these guys.
The prep was insane.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's not about the team, but there's so much crazy prep going on.
Diggory really is the MVP when it comes to just always having their opponent on the complete read, I think. It's insane. Just always bringing the right 6 to every match. A bit of a rough start to the season. 1 week one, and then I think lost 2 weeks in a row. Diggory was admittedly getting kind of not downtrodden, but like unhappy with the progress and not feeling like he was going to be able to pull out the season. And then he just brought it back. And
went crazy.
Great Tusk, absolutely insane. Not the top of the leaderboards, but I think just such a good, important Pokemon to this team. Bisharp.
Same with Finny. We just never talk about Finny. Bisharp and Chandelure more so, I think, did a lot of work. Bisharp is one of those weird situations where I'm like, I'm not sure Bisharp was vital to the season as a whole as much as it was vital to like 1 or 2 matches. Yeah.
And that sometimes you see that at the top of the leaderboards, is something pops up once or twice and it ends up being the best. I actually think Chandelure, Great Tusk, Tapu Fini, even Electros and Megaladios, I think were like more important to the team than Bisharp. But that's how it pans out. Whimsicott, of course, always super important. All right, let's talk about you. Talk to me about your team. How'd you feel this season? You are in first, so that's pretty cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I learned from this team is we gotta reevaluate some genies.
Yeah.
I'm super pleased with how Starmie worked out.
Yeah, Starmie's great. Sneasler, too. I think you made great use of Sneasler. It was really fun to watch.
Sneasler didn't feel great to use because I ran the same set almost every time.
That's fair.
There were 2 times I ran something different.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then the Dunsparce, I don't like it.
Fair enough.
It's very good.
Very.
Gudra didn't do much, which was very surprising to me. Tangrowth sitting at the bottom did a lot, I think.
Arcanine too, sort of in the middle, but I think also was pretty important.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked the team. It felt very standard, but I'm okay with standard now and again.
Cool. All right. Well, that's great to hear. I hope you had a fun season, and we shall see how you perform in the following weeks. And finally, we got me. So
welcome to Hyper Offense.
Seriously, yeah. No, this was my foray into Hyper Offense. I figured I'd give it a shot. My going into this season, Iron Valiant is one of the coolest fucking Pokemon ever. I really, really wanted to use it, despite everyone telling me it's not very good in doubles. I wanted to use it anyways. And so I was like, what is the best sort of team I can build around this thing? And I was like, Hyper Offense. I'm scared of it. I'm super scared of this. The only time I'd really seen Hyper Offense prior to this was your Season 2 team. And I was like, let's give it a shot. I'm kind of in love, right? Like, I really enjoy Hyper Offense. I think I will continue using Hyper Offense in the future. Maybe not every season, but it's definitely a piece of my toolkit now. Despite the fact that, didn't make it into playoffs again, never will. It's fine. Despite that, this was a very good learning experience of a team for me. Probably my second or third best season I've ever had. So overall, I there's no piece of this team that I like look at and I'm like, I did not enjoy using that. That didn't really fit in. The closest thing would be the Sandy Shocks, which I kind of just drafted because I really, really like its design. And even that, I think, did some important things on occasion. Iron Jugulus, I think, was besides Iron Bundle, the worst performing Terra Captain. I have no issues with how I used it. I think, or not, I should rephrase that. I have no issues with how it performed on my team. I was perfectly happy with what it did, right? Like, it used the type changes to, in a couple of cases, get really important coverage that I needed, or very important stabs that I needed on a specific team. But a lot of times it was more of a defensive use, and I think I think it was perfectly good. So despite the fact that its KD is not great, I think Jugulus is a perfectly good Terra Cap, and I liked it. But yeah, that is the team.
That's good.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with this team. That is it. So we just kind of ran through that.
A little bit.
Woo! Fantastic. Just kind of nuts. Anyways, next week we have got quarterfinals between, oh gosh, is it Persians of Alola and Who Let Her Cook? Is that correct?
I believe so.
And then Burnt, or rather the Mothership versus Card Wizards. And then the winner of Ned versus Hyde is going to be versus you, and then winner of Burnt versus Diggory is going to be Juice. Reminder, in case matches haven't happened yet, you can build up to 3. You are not required to use all 3. You are required to send your pastes for all 3 before the first match. But if you made 3, you can make up to 3. If you play the first match and you get a win and you're like, you just want to ride that wave, you can absolutely just use it 2 more times. If
you have the bank of 3 teams, you can use any of them for any game.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Thank you for putting it away much better than me. That being said, I get the feeling we probably will already have had Burnt versus Diggory. I know Diggory likes to get the matches out very early, but either way, that is going to be it for this season. We got a few more matches left for everybody to watch, but most of us can relax now. So I hope you all enjoyed yet another season of TDD, and we'll be back at some point with an off season maybe. After last season, we kind of didn't want to do one. I think everybody was kind of tired. I'm raring, man. I'm raring to go. Wouldn't do off season this time. Anyways.
All right.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Sounds good. Good luck, playoff players. I think you stopped recording already, but that's fine.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good luck, playoff players.